These first three insurrection hearings have released lots of new evidence, and we've been watching together, reporting, analyzing. Now, as promised, with you, I'm going to turn to the smoking gun evidence that felt big when it happened, for sure, but I don't know about you, I'm not sure that in the entire sort of community of people paying attention to this, which now numbers in the tens of millions, that it has broken through as quite as significant as it should. But there is time yet, and that's why we're focusing on it. I'm talking Nixon Watergate level stuff. I can report for you tonight, this is one of the largest new smoking guns. New evidence showing coup plotter and Trump lawyer John Eastman knew and even admitted in writing in secret the whole plan was illegal.
Dr. Eastman emailed Rudy Giuliani and requested that he be included on a list of potential recipients of a presidential pardon. Dr. Eastman's email stated, quote, "I've decided that I should be on the pardon list, if that is still in the works." Dr. Eastman did not receive his presidential pardon.
Eastman and Trump knew this was all illegal, which is why he wanted a pardon, and that's the smoking gun. Eastman seeking a pardon for himself for his apparent crime with Trump as the apparent co-conspirator. This is Trump's own lawyer. So I want to show you exactly what this is. We showed it in the committee hearing, but here's the independent evidence. The thing about these hearings is we learn stuff and we can put it in our own context. He's writing Giuliani, and Eastman says he wants to be on the pardon list. Now, that is damning. That is a sign that he not only knows what he did was potentially illegal or illegal, but that he could be indicted for it. And let me be clear, because I want to be as clear as possible with you. If he thinks that about himself, all of that applies to Donald Trump. There is no separate Eastman criminal plan. He's not embezzling money on the side from the IRS. He's not planning something else on January 21st. This implicates Trump from his own, apparently incompetent lawyer. Now, that's my best effort to explain to you why I think it matters. Let me show you some other sources in case you say, okay, but that's just one journalist's view. Here's the Supreme Court of the United States. A pardon carries the imputation of guilt and acceptance of a confession of it. I'm going to read that to you again. The Supreme Court. This is the law in America. You may not know it if you don't keep track of this stuff or you haven't committed crimes, but lawyers know this. When you seek and accept a pardon, you are confessing legally. Now, that's the high court of the land. And let me give you one more source, because we try to report this stuff out directly. That means talking to everybody. Might mean talking to people you don't want to hear from. And obviously, you have free will. You can always change the channel. But just last night, we were joined by a Trump lawyer who defended then-President Trump in the first impeachment, Robert Ray. He also succeeded Ken Starr in the investigation into President Clinton. This is an individual with right-wing legal credentials. And while we went back and forth on certain points, he did acknowledge that this lawyer, Eastman's, in trouble, and asking for that pardon is not good.
As a lawyer, you try to navigate along the lines of never doing anything that would get you disbarred, never have to take the Fifth Amendment, and I think probably the parallel in something like this is never do anything for which you would have to seek a pardon.
Never means never. That's Trump's defense lawyer, basically saying Eastman is in a bad spot. Never do what he did. Now, broaden out, let me just put it like this before we bring in an expert that I think you all know and that we rely on. Richard Nixon sought a pardon in his term's notorious final days because he knew what they had done. And thus, Nixon knew he had criminal exposure. Period. Undisputed. Now let me bring you up to date to what we're discussing, because this is why it's Watergate level. John Eastman sought a pardon in Trump's final days because he knew what they did, and he knew they had criminal exposure. Eastman wanted a pardon to protect him from federal indictment for what he did with and for outgoing President Trump. This sounds bad. It may even sound like I am belaboring the point, although I'm belaboring it because it is important. This is a legal heart attack. Everything I've said that sounds terrible for Mr. Eastman and Mr. Trump relates to what Mr. Eastman thinks, not what I think. He thinks he needs a pardon. He thinks that he is in a situation where it can be at least reasonably argued or proven that he committed to thwart the lawful election a crime that then President Trump would be in on. Now, if you feel like I've just been going on and on, I wanted to make sure to make that point clearly, but I want to put an exclamation point on it. So with the help of our beat team here, we want to widen out and remind you, this is not high-level lawyering stuff. This is straightforward. This is like, if you plead the fifth, as we know from a lot of pop culture and other references, which Eastman did over and over, well, you're already not in the best spot. And I want to be clear, I said this before. Legally, it does not justify discrimination against whoever pleads the fifth. But boy, do we all know it's not great.
I'm pleading the fifth until I speak to my lawyer.
I assert my Fifth Amendment right against being compelled to be a witness against myself.
Upon the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer your question based on my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution.
Is that statement in this memo true?
Fifth.
I plead the fifth.
Did he tell you where he was on the day McAllister was murdered?
I plead the fifth.
And that's what it looks like when people plead the fifth.